imagination and fantasy.
Yeah.
There's so much imagination, there's so much fantasy and flair. Imagination and flair. Lack a bit of imagination and fantasy. Imagination and fantasy.
Yeah.
There's so much imagination, there's so much fantasy and flair. Imagination and flair. Lack a bit of imagination and fantasy.
Yeah. Done.
Good evening. Welcome back to another special episode of the Sokkah podcast. Joe, Trent, and we're joined by Michael Turner, who you might know from the Around the Block podcast and just a general Sokkah Twitter personality. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you. I think they refer to me as a Sokkah Twitter pest, I think is the word that people tend to use. So
I feel like
this has been described as a cross-pollination of soccer podcasts in the A-League realm, which is not a bad term to define the current pod.
I think, I mean, I've done a little collab with Joe, with the guys from For Fuck's Sake. So, like, this is, coming thick and fast, these collabs. That's what isolation does to you. You just try new things and see if it works. So.
I was like talking to Trent earlier. I was like, COVID-19 is probably like the best thing to happen to the podcast because like we can get like so many guests on now because like everyone's got so much free time now.
Yeah, that's right. That's true. Yeah, that's that. Look, to be honest, like we've got a few guests lined up for the next couple of weeks on ATB, and we're finding the same thing that it's like people are like, oh yeah, I've got nothing else better to do, may as well.
When are you free? All the time.
Yeah, I'll do 3 shows. I'm fine with it.
So yeah, there's like a little part of me that's like, what if COVID never ends and we can just like interview like all these players because like they're just doing nothing now. So
yeah, like interviews would be great, but
what's like the pinnacle? Like, where do you get to the top? Like, is this when you like interview Gianni and Fantino and you go, you know what, we can close the podcast. We don't need to do it anymore.
I was happy with shutting down after the Vooge. Yeah. I was happy shutting down after the Vooge pod. I think we've done Tony Popovich. I think would be a great interview, and then that's done.
That'd be a good get. We would both know from both our clubs. He's notoriously a closed book. Like not much gets in or out of a club under his administration. So like to get him to spill everything would be amazing.
Yeah.
Like sure. I'd be way too scared to interview Popper. Like all I'd say was like, hi, how are you? And like that's it.
I've had this is really early for a story. I've had a run-in with Popper, not a run-in like a bad run-in, right? I had a run-in with Popper in the 2014 A-League Grand Final. It was the night before. And this is before I really had any sort of official roles with the club. Like we knew him well, but we're just up there as fans. And I was at this pub on, I think it's Queen Street or Princess Street in Brisbane. It's like the main drag. Getting drinks at this Irish bar. And we'd come out blind, absolutely toasted, and started walking back towards the hotel, and there was this cafe in the middle of this plaza, and we looked inside and I thought I just had too many, and it was Popovich and Milicic in there. Now any rational fan the night before the A-League Grand Final would just probably leave them be, but I sort of looked and I just thought, yeah, Tony, Ante, bro. Staff came over and said, oh look, they've asked if they could, if you guys could leave them alone, as in like everyone just leaves them alone, not just us. If like, because they were expecting people to notice them, and I kept yelling, Tony, I love you, because this is second season, we're doing well in the Asian Champions League, and he was sort of like, all right, come over, like come say hi. Yeah. So he walked in. I'm trying my best to stay as sober as I can, and he goes and shakes all. There's a group of 5 that shakes all of our hands, and I was the last one for him to shake hands with. And he was sort of saying something like, it's really good for you guys that you've made the trip up to Brisbane. And I just went, I didn't know what to say. And I hadn't had much FaceTime with many players at that point. And I just went, I love you, Tony. and he sort of pauses, and I'm like, you've changed my life. Like I had to save it. Like, you've changed my life. Like the wonders of, we've all felt this, sport and football have changed our lives. And I said, wonders have changed my life. And he goes, oh, look, and he tries to turn it into some sort of, politically correct way of saying it. And he goes, oh, look, it's really great to see that, we've had such a positive influence on the community of Western Sydney. And everyone was looking at me to respond. And I just went, you've changed my life, Tony. And I just couldn't control it, and taking a selfie and walked away. Unfortunately, lost the grand final. I don't blame myself for that, but people have blamed me for it.
I actually did have a running with Tony when I was seeing one of the Glory physios at the offices, and we're walking down the corridors, and the physio introduced me to him. I said hello, and that's about it. I think I was shaking. I was shaking after.
He's an
that was the
intimidating
extent of the
man.
running.
He's
Very
like an intimidating looking man, right? Like he feels like
100%.
he's going to stare you down. And like, if you look at him the wrong way, he's going to jab you. I think that's why I opened with "I love you" because I just thought, let's diffuse everything and just make him know I'm friendly.
Because like I feel like if Tony Popovich has like a problem with you, I think like he can get you killed. I think he knows
Yeah.
or something. Like if there's a problem, like he knows somebody who can like fix it for him.
I don't know if you guys have the same thing at Perth, right? We used to have this thing with Tony where, and we used to talk about on our show, we used to call it the treatment. And it was this idea that if you were out of favor with Tony Popovich, you would receive the treatment. And it was this real obvious, humiliating, you go and train by yourself at the back of Blacktown and you would literally, he'd pick like one random youth player and that youth player is stuck for the whole day of training, just passing balls back and forth. Like Pia Vicari was there. The only 2 players ever came out of it, actually. Shannon Cole and Mark Bridge, only 2 players to come out of the treatment. Every other player that went into the treatment got sacked. So I don't know if he does the
my
same.
thing is like when players fall out of favor with very intimidating coaches, I feel like there's never a way back. But like, because
I thought that as well until I saw Bridge and Cole get out of it.
Like
same with Brisbane. We spoke to Scott Neville on the Football Centre podcast recently, and like he said how O'Donovan and Mork left, and he's like they were like in training, like they're probably our best players, but like Fowler didn't really rate him, and we just got on with it. And I was like, because I just thought when they left and they were doing shit, I was like, well, this is Fowler's out the door. But it's interesting to see how like that actually came back from that. I never really thought you could.
Yeah. But you got to work hard, I think.
For sure.
Yeah, it's like even like at Perth. Sorry, my dog just like playing with my internet modem. I'm just gonna fix that. I'm just gonna kick him out before it cuts out.
So Michael, tell us.
Yeah.
I'm actually a closet Western Sydney fan. If you
I was gonna say, like, I've seen you wear Wanderers jerseys way more times than I would expect a Perth Glory fan to be wearing one. So I had a feeling
they're
you
my
may have
spiritual
been.
second. Yeah, my spiritual
That's
second team. So we want to talk a bit about you and how you originally came into sort of the position you're in now with the Wanderers.
Sorry, before we
how it all
get to that,
started.
we do have some sponsors
Joe.
as well, Trent. We want to thank for sponsoring us.
Plug away.
Joe, what type are you wearing at the moment?
I'm wearing my Socceroos 2018 World Cup training kit.
Okay. Were you in the camp at the time?
What's his name? He gave me the call up, Bert Van Marwijk.
Okay.
And that's how I caught one of these bad boys from Rebel
Do you
Sport.
know what, Joe?
One of my
I've always
favourites.
thought you actually look like a fringe Socceroo that you forget the name of after like 10 years. Like, you know, you look at the photo of the like the 30-man like World Cup squad and you're like, who the hell is that on the
seen him
end?
before.
Oh, that's Joe. Yeah. He played for some Serbian team or something. And
Man,
Live appearance on the
one
bench.
Socceroo camp.
yeah.
Very nice. Now, we mentioned the shirt because Vintage Stock Shirts Australia, our official sponsor, 10% off at the checkout, SOKKAH, if you want a vintage stock shirt. Mine is a vintage, but as we were just discussing, I'm a closet Western Sydney fan.
It will be vintage
now,
one day.
It will be. That's very true. Now, Joe, have you heard the rumor that I need to live stream an event?
Keep on mentioning this, Trent. I'm curious to know what it's about.
I haven't heard the rumor anything else other than when we speak, but it's okay. I would like to hear it on Twitter sometimes. But you Streamgate, Live Streaming Australia, our official sponsor. If you need to stream an event, they are the people for you. Lots of different types of features. Monetize your event with a pay-per-view. The studio's 5 minutes from Sydney. Dennis, the bloke from Streamgate, doesn't like Western Sydney because he's a Sydney
I
FC
feel
fan,
bad
but
for Dennis
that's
because like he's our big sponsor. He's a massive Sydney FC fan. And we keep on
And
getting
we're
like
turning
all
into
these
a Western Sydney
Wanderers.
show.
Like,
Look at what's happening on the screen right now.
He's gonna see.
We're not-
You wouldn't like
do you
this
remember-
pod.
Do you remember that Tiffo? We're not here to take part. We're here to take over. Like, we've done that with this show.
Yeah, he wouldn't like this pod, but it's okay.
Sorry,
Yeah,
Dennis.
All right. Okay. So,
So
my question, Michael. Yeah. So, Michael, tell us how you all began Western Sydney.
Do you know, like, I get asked this question a lot about, how'd you come to being sort of with Western Sydney or supporting Western Sydney, which is the thinly veiled, were you a closet Sydney FC fan before the Wanderers came in? And the answer for me is no. And some people don't believe this, but you have to sort of understand Sydney to really get it, I think, because Sydney's huge, right? Sydney's massive. and I grew up in the Northwest, and at one point I grew up next to Parramatta Stadium pretty much, and there was no engagement with where I went to school and where I grew up with Sydney FC. I think the first Sydney FC game I went to was I can't remember what year, it was actually to watch Robbie Fowler, funnily enough, against North Queensland Fury. And it was just because Robbie Fowler's in town, let's go watch him. It wasn't to watch Sydney. I had no connection with them. I got given free tickets to a game, and me and my mate spent the whole game just running around the stadium because we weren't really interested in the game. And just Sydney, and it's the same story for many Wanderers fans, is that Sydney FC we had no real connection with. It wasn't targeted to us. We didn't feel like we were included by it. Getting to Allianz was 45 minutes for me on a clear day. So just had no connection. So when the Wanderers came in, and it was this idea that, it was a club for Western Sydney, built by Western Sydney, had all the fan forums. We all attended them. And we had to say, this is a club that we could sort of go, this club actually represents us. It represents everything that we said we wanted it to. And it's been made for us, and it's playing where we want them to, the style we want them to. And, all of that culminated in the success that was that first season under Popovich. Because Popovich sort of employed the tactics and the style of play and the ideas that people were saying in the forums. And it's probably actually more coincidental. I don't think he was sitting there reading, all right, play a 4-2-3-1 or play bridge out wide. Like, he wasn't going to that extent. It was more coincidence. But it was like the perfect storm where everyone was waiting for what a team, myself included. And then when the team came in, they played in the way that everyone expected, hardworking, a lot of Westies in the squad. It was just the perfect storm. And I got caught up in that. I didn't think that I'd be so devoted to this club. I didn't think I'd be doing any work with the club at this point in my life. Like, it never occurred to me that I would. But, it's the groundswell that was that first season for the club. It just paved the way for probably countless other Wanderers fans having the exact same sort of story.
Yeah, because I've been to Parramatta. I went for the Glory Away Day in January, and there's a massive difference between, say, like Sydney, you had your Harbour Bridge and all that kind of Hollywood type thing. But once you go to Parramatta out west, it's not Sydney anymore. It's a completely different city. That's how I felt about Parramatta especially.
I have a photo from that game actually. I'm just gonna put that on the screen here. There we go.
Good day for me.
Yeah, it was, but you're 100% right. The people of Western Sydney are a different, I won't say breed, but a different type of people. We're more hardworking, we're more working class traditionally, and this East-West divide is a big Sydney thing. Always, you look at South Sydney or Sydney Roosters versus, say, Penrith or Parramatta in the NRL. It's the same principle of hardworking eastern suburbs and hardworking western suburbs and sort of the elitist Bling FC type style eastern suburbs. And while Sydney, I know Sydney fans will say that's not what we are, that's not what we're targeted at. But that's the perception that was created for Wanderers fans that made it work. So because this idea that Sydney FC weren't interested in them, when the Wanderers came in, everything was tailored toward what that demographic is and how different it is. As you say, Joe, Parramatta's a different city to Sydney. It's not as glamorous, but it's got its own character, and it played to that character so well. And that's what made people go, that's the team for me. I 100% get behind that. And that's why it was so big in that first season, because, it helps when you win, but, people would just come in going, this just represents me. It just feels right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. And even the team, obviously take away Shinji Ono, but we're talking to Sandlab about this when they were in the Champions League final. It's never been a team of superstars. No. Dino Cressinger played the first year. Did he score?
He scored twice.
But he was the epitome of the team. He was just a hard work. He just ran. And he had passion. Right. He wore his name on his heart on his sleeve,
Dino was he was this polarizing figure up until it was a game against Adelaide. The game we won 6-1, and we went on our 10-game winning streak after that. And Dino in that game was subbed off early. And there was this moment where there was some it got caught on the camera, unfortunately, but there was this small section of people who booed as Dino came off because they're really? He's our striker, he hasn't scored for us. Yeah. And there was this almost collective outcry. You could hear people sort of getting annoyed that people were booing him. So the next game, when Dino, he started on the bench, he came on the field, he got cheered for like crazy. People went nuts for. Sorry, it was the game before the Adelaide one. It was the Adelaide game he came on, I should say. So he came on against Adelaide, and he gave a fist pump to the crowd because people were cheering him because they were like, no, don't boo our player. Let's pep him up. Let's get him to get to the next level, and let's get him to try harder. And he actually scored in that game. It was his first goal for the club. It was a header. We were already going to win the game, but he celebrated like crazy. You could tell how much it meant to him and how much he'd worked to get that. And he had an assist in that game too. And from that point, that endeared him to everyone. And like the game's moving on, he did this fist bump to the crowd all the time, and that became his thing. And like everyone warmed to it. And Santa's like a good example of another player. Like, if you give it your all and you work hard, the fans endear to you. And that's just the culture that this club represents. So it's not about the big names, as you say. Like, you can even look at our marquee decision in that first season. We went for Shinji Ono over Michael Ballack. I can tell you that we actually were talking to Ballack. That wasn't just paper talk. But the club went, Ballack's here for a paycheck. Let's get Ono who wants to win competitions. And that was Popovic's idea beforehand. So there was no coincidence with all these events that led to why the Wanderers were so successful in those first couple of seasons.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
But even I wanted to mention it to Santa, but like in the Champions League final, you had Daniel Mullen at left back and Brendan Hamill at right back, and for the most part of their careers, they were centre backs, and like things like that. Just and some of the players, like Shannon Cole, one of them, he just amazed me of how he turned into like someone who was reliably, like technically brilliant.
They've always been a team of hard workers.
So many stories like that for Wanderers players that I never. Even LaRocca was one of them. It's like. He went to Adelaide and is he at Adelaide now? I can't even think.
Is it City now, technically?
Yeah.
I'd say technically.
So,
I'm
like,
not actually sure.
Yeah. But like when he was he was never a terrific player, but like played so well in a Wanderers jersey. That just like things like that really fascinate me.
Do you know what? Like I did this recently with a mate. We because we were actually talking about doing like with all the COVID stuff, we were talking about doing like a series of shows where we reviewed like the Champions League again and just relived that because let's face it, this current season sucked for us. So we're just going to relive the Champions League and we pulled up the Wikipedia page for the Champions League final, and we all did this triple take at the lineup because we looked at that and went, what the hell? How did that lineup win the Asian Champions League final? Like, what? Like, it just made no sense. Like, you've seen the photo behind me. Like, Alessandro Fofana doesn't play anymore. Corbino, Apia Kubi, Josh Sotirio. But the thing is, like, it was all individually, they're not all technically amazing, but you nail on the head when you say they all just worked really hard. It was like Popovic's system was always about that. If you bought into the philosophy and you worked super hard, you would come out with results and you'd grind out those results. And it was this collective belief with that squad. Like I've spoken to, and you've spoken to Santa, and I dare say he said the same. Now, I've spoken to guys in that squad about what got them to that final. It was this collective shared belief that they actually thought they could do it. And that it wasn't just, oh, we've made the semi now, let's see it. From the moment they left the group stage, there was this belief that so there's this belief that they could win. Tony Popovich, when the club first started, this isn't behind the scenes info, this was revealed in a Copper 90 show. Popovich brought this spreadsheet or presentation to John Satsmas, the CEO, and said, I want to show the players this. And this time we'd signed Aaron Moy, I think Tarek Elrich, and Apia Kubi. He goes, I want to show the boys this. Yeah. He goes, I want to show the boys this presentation and the squad when they all come in. And on it had like slide 1, it had the Wanderers, what we're looking to do, what we're about. Slide 2 was like win the A-League, season 1. And John really was like, okay, let's get a team together. And slide 3 was win the Asian Champions League. So this belief, right? Popovich almost knew he was going to do it. And like the players who came in that season 1 and 2, they all bought into it. And it was, again, it's that perfect storm. Like, I don't know if any team can replicate that because all these circumstances are so unique to what had happened. You'd need some crazy 1 in a million event to make it happen again.
Yeah, like even when we spoke to Santa, like he mentioned, like when you get Tony Popovich, like you always get a winner. He just has like that. Yeah, he just has like something in him that like clicks, and like he just has to win. And like like when he's around like a team situation, people just buy into that. Like the same things happens at Perth as well. Like he just has that winning mentality, and he just does it by like any means necessary.
Yeah, no, for sure. I don't think it's going to be replicated. I don't think it can be.
I'm very happy for that to stay because I'm happy for us to be the only ones with this. So,
it's like with the start, I mean, was that for the Champions League?
Like Sydney FC, yeah, it's for the Champions League.
Yeah, well, like don't like Adelaide have a star as well, but they're just for the A-League.
Silver. So I think it's actually now when we won it, they actually had to put protocols in place for this. So they have the Silver Star for the A-League I think Premiership and Championship, and then you get the gold star for the Champions League. So pretty
Yeah,
much
Champions League.
for the foreseeable future, we're the only ones who'll have it. And I think if you have multiples, you don't just put 2 stars, you actually put like a number in the star, which annoys me a little bit. I think put more stars. Like Benfica have like 26,000 stars, and so does the Uruguay national team. So the more the merrier.
You know, just on Champions League, like I feel like Sydney FC have struggled so bad in the Champions League, and
I'm still waiting to go to the Champions League. I'm sick of it.
Oh yeah. I really feel for you guys about that, because like I know Perth is a very proud fan base. I'm not just saying this because I'm on your show, but like the history, Perth Glory is quite a historic club, like in the grand scheme of the A-League. Like the team's been around in the old NSL. You guys had
Like
previous
25
history.
years now?
25, yeah, that's right. Like
Yeah.
you guys have huge history in the NSL competition. You know, you weren't just a club, you were a big club in it. And you had a big, strong fan base built on the idea that you guys were Perth, and you guys, you know, it was a nationalistic view to support. Like it was really good. And you guys just hadn't replicated that success, but you've come so close. And not to bring up old wounds, but like that Brisbane Raw game, like that, and I know what it's like to lose in a grand final as well, but like it's a kick in the teeth. And like, and you guys finally get that, had that chance to play in the Champions League, and it's just, everything has happened and it's kind of removed that. But like, hopefully
I remember that 2012 season, Glory finished, I think, 3rd that year. And like originally we were going to get Champions League in the 2013 season, but then they changed like the standing coefficients or whatever. So only 2, not 3 clubs like we're supposed to play Champions League. And obviously now like we've played 1 game, and then like the rest is like all up in the air because of this whole COVID situation, which in a way, like I feel like Perth Glory in a way are like the Tottenham of like the A-League. Like they just get so close to like achieving like a massive golf club, and then at the last minute, like it just goes like to shit.
It's just super unlucky, right?
That 2012 year, I think Ian Ferguson doesn't get enough credit for. If you look at the team, very average team. Like, not that like the lineup was like Billy Mehmet played such a big role in that season, and like he's a legend, but like I don't think he's a great player. Like he's more like a funny guy. And like Todd Howarth was playing that year. Like I'm not disrespect Todd Howarth, was like there were better left wingers in the A-League, and Travis Dodd was on the right. He could barely run, and he was playing in the grand final. Like that. I don't know if we've actually spoken about that grand final, but Ian Ferguson and that coaching staff. Like I'll shout out Ian Gillen because he sends me he's a friend of my dad's, and he sends me a coaching book every month. And he's like, stay safe. He's like, stay safe, Trent. So he's a legend. But the Glory, I don't know. We've come close. We've come close to say that much.
It's like the history of the club, especially in like the A-League era. It's like that Chiellini interview. Like it's the history of the Tottenham. That's Perth Glory, I think. I feel like going back to that.
We get stick for like never being successful when we've come very close.
Yeah, like that's the thing with the A-League as well. Like finishing first essentially means nothing if you do nothing in the final series.
Yeah, that's right.
That's true.
Which is, it's just, I'll put on record that I think it should be first past the post, but in the same time, I understand why they need the finals because of the revenue. So it's like a rock and a hard place. Like you can't satisfy everyone.
Yeah, no, for sure. So Michael, just quickly tell us what you're doing at the moment. Like, so you got your 2 podcasts going, and you were the Wanderers MC at the game. Is that correct?
Yes, hopefully we'll remain the Wanderers MC after all this. Like, I hope cost cutting doesn't cut me off. But so I've been the Wanderers MC for the better part of this year. I think most people don't know that, and because I don't think anyone actually pays attention to the MC, apart from when they're complaining that the bloody speakers at the stadium's too loud. Like that happens every week.
PA systems.
The very loud.
I was
PA
quite
systems.
impressed with them when I was at Parramatta.
And the thing is, like, you have to yell to project sometimes, like with the mic. So it's like super loud. Like, and people, I had a mate message me. He was on Church Street, which, if you've been to Parramatta, is a fair while away from the actual stadium. And he's going, I'm walking down Church Street, and all I can hear is your bloody voice, like booming from the stadium. So I replied, "Sir, I'll keep it down." But I'm the host of Around the Block, which is the Wanderers Supporters podcast. So I've been doing that now for about 8 years, approximately. 8 years. Since the team started off with me and a bunch of mates just talking smack together, and we thought, hey, this will make a good podcast.
And you've started a new one as well, hey?
Yeah, so I've got another one. It's not football related, but it's the JD and Turner show, to give it the plug. So talking about current affairs and topical stuff with a friend of mine who's a journo with Channel 10. She's also a commentator with the A-League in Sydney and the W League and Matildas for football. So
Big ups.
we're just talking about stuff, and what better time to start a podcast than in COVID? So why not?
So now we'll get back to you being the stadium announcer at Wanderers games. What's the secret to like getting the crowd like standing up, or like when a goal scored? What's like your favorite players' names like shout, or like how do you approach it?
There's an answer that everyone wants to hear, which is Simon Cox. Because I don't say the Cox part, I say the Simon part. And Simon's excellent. He's a lovely bloke, and I've never asked him directly. But it's just a bit odd when you're just yelling Simon and you've got people all around you yelling Cox back at you. And it's, you know what they're actually saying versus what you want them to say. But Mitch Nichols is great to yell. Because we do, for those who haven't been to a Wanderers game, we do when we score, which is actually quite a lot this year for some reason, but we do a call and response. So it's, Mitch, so back and forth.
Should we just try that with like all of us in the podcast? So you can, so let's pretend Mitch Duke has scored for the Wanderers in the 27th minute, and like you announce it.
Simon Cox.
Yeah, I would do Simon Cox, and
right.
So you announce it as you normally would, and me and Trent will yell Cox.
I'll sound, for those who've been to the games, I won't sound like I've normally do, because you actually have to really yell, like you're projecting from your stomach. But normally, you know, the goal will go and you wait a little bit, right, from the initial roar of the crowd. Let the crowd really get into it. The music goes on overhead, and then you come in with the announcement. Goal for the Western Sydney Wanderers, scored by number 10, Simon. And then
Cox.
Simon.
Cox.
Simon.
Cox.
Good.
Simon.
Cox.
And the last one's like an elongated Simon, and then there's an elongated Cox as the response.
Because I feel like, especially doing like that, like the whole thing when a goal scored, it works well with like European players because they have like the long surnames and everything, and it works well in Europe. But especially in the A-League, like at Glory games, if like the announcer just goes, "Goal for Perth Glory, number 10, whoever." And like that's
and we say the name wrong.
Yeah. There's like no engagement between like the announcer and the fans. Like in Europe,
like I think it works for the Wanderers because we've done it for quite a long time. Like we brought it in when we were doing really well. So like we were packing out Parramatta, and then they brought that in, and it was a suggestion from the fans, so they wanted it. So the RBB and the side stands, they all actually got involved in it, and we do it at lineups as well. So we're announcing the lineups. It's a call and response. Works better when we're doing well, granted. But the best one to yell is actually Mitch Duke, because Duke's so easy to yell, and it's such a deep yell. So like Duke just sounds really deep. So like when people yell it back, and like when you're doing the announcement, it's a real like thrill because you hear people yell it back, and it's you hear the stadium get like deafening based on what you're saying. So it's really cool, and it pumps you up a little bit when you do it. But the players love it because it's really intimidating for the away side. Like, you know, like when you hear it and you're in the away team, you've just conceded, and then there's 20,000 odd people, you know, screaming the goal scorer's name back. Your opposition is getting pumped up, and you feel like you're so tiny in that stadium.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Like, even though when I went to Parramatta, there was like 10,000 people, and like you guys scored, but then it got like ruled out for VAR. But like that was like the first time I've seen like something like that like being done in Australia, because I've been to Europe a few times, and it happens at every game there, and it's like awesome. It's like for that like to finally happen in Australia, I think it's like so cool, because like everybody knows that famous Napi video when like there's like the announcer there, and he's like Gonzalo, and the whole crowd goes like Higuain. Like that's just so cool, and like bringing that kind of engagement to Australia, like that's what we need to like add, so just like the culture just like develops that like extra bit more.
Yeah, the best game for it this year would have been that game where we beat, I think it was Adelaide 6-2 or 5-2 or something like that. Like because we scored so early, so like everyone was really getting into it. So like by the time we'd scored, like the third or fourth, like everyone was like in celebratory mode, and they were just absolutely yelling at the top of their voices. Everyone was drunk, having fun. So like that game was the absolute best for it this year.
It's like on game, sorry, you go, Trent.
No, in Perth, like the Wildcats have an announcer. I know basketball's completely different, but he like runs around. He's a complete loony, and he like runs around the court, and he's kind of endearing because he's just so out there and like. But I mean, like I can't see it happening at the Glory, like some blokes running around the stadium. But I feel like like an announcer, I think it should be at away league games, to be honest.
Yeah, because they should
And like,
definitely get.
You know, I think every club announcer should be a fan of the club.
Now, Joe, are you with us?
Yeah, we're back recording now. Remember earlier when
Loading.
our dog was like playing with the internet modem?
Did he? Oh, did we stop recording?
Yeah, so like when I
Just
went
stop
out,
recording, Joe.
yeah, I'm recording now again.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so
So we told the
technical
best story. You
difficulties.
just missed it, Joe.
Yeah.
Can't tell
Should
it
we?
again.
yeah, you need to repeat it. Yeah,
We did do a little. Okay. I wonder when it cut out. Like what?
Where did we get up to? Can't remember.
I think I mentioned. So Joe cut out, and I talked about the home ground announcer at the Glory announcing.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I was
yeah.
on
I think
to
we'll
that.
just talk about that. All right. Okay. So.
you
Yeah,
wanna
no,
start?
Joe just cut out, but we're back. Yeah. No, one thing I was saying was the Glory announcer. The one thing he does well is announces the away fans or the away goals like really quietly. And what you said was like it's also you can empower the home team, but you can also like disrespect the away team to an extent, which I think is important as well.
And like that's I think I mentioned, Joe, that you were at the game where you didn't even hear me make my announcement, but because I'd made it so quietly and so uninterested, like you were too busy celebrating, but I had just said it as if I was just talking to a guy next to me. So, and like you do it on purpose, like just because it's your home ground, like doesn't matter. I did get in trouble, loosely got in trouble for referring to Melbourne City as a City Football Group when they scored against us. I had a chat to some people at management about that one, but I'll try. I usually don't mention the away team's name because at the end of the day, it's your home ground, right? I wouldn't expect nice treatment from if I went to Perth away. I don't expect the red carpet to get rolled out, and it's small things. It doesn't really make the biggest difference, but it's like these 1%ers that make the atmosphere of the home game.
yeah, exactly. Like you want to make that home ground advantage however you can, and maybe there's something in that for you.
Yeah, no,
That's right.
I think there is. Now, Michael, I want to hear. This might be putting you on the spot here, but we are big Marcus Babbel fans.
Oh yeah.
Potentially one of the reasons I'm a closet supporter was because of this big man. What was about him, like being close to him on the sideline? Like, was he? You can't even tell if he's vocal or not, because I know towards the end of his tenure, he was really quiet.
Really quiet.
And old mate JP DiMarini next to him, they were just like stone cold figures, sitting next to each other. But yeah, so tell us a little bit about Marcus being so close to him as you were.
Marcus is he's intimidating because he's such a big, imposing character, and you know his history and when I met Marcus for the first time, it was 2 years ago, and he just signed for us, and I was at the club offices, and I was just walking up the stairs. I was going to meet someone. I can't remember who I was meeting, and I was just waiting at reception, and then I remember seeing out of the corner of my eye, I remember seeing this group of people walking up the stairs. The ramp, and I looked over and I went in my head, it's the new coach, that's Marcus Babbel. And I don't get starstruck or anything like that with players because you do meet them a fair bit after a while. And as he got a bit closer, I think I had enough time to process who he actually was, and he got a bit close, and he's looking at me because he's a nice guy, and he was going to introduce himself to me. And in my head, I'm thinking, played for Germany, played in Euros, played for World Cups, played for Liverpool, played for Bayern Munich, and in my head I'm thinking, this guy's one of the pretty damn big player in terms of like the world, not just Australian football. And it kind of, I got nervous, and he came up to me and just shook my hand, and he said, "Oh, hello, I'm Marcus. Nice to meet you."
Such like a
"My name's
nice
Michael."
German accent as well. I'll just add.
Really soft German accent. Like it's kind of like a bit English washed a little bit, and he like just super nice, and like he was like, "Oh, nice to meet you. What are you doing here?" I'm here to meet John. Oh, very good. We hopefully will win and do well this season. And then 6 months later, I met him again at the offices. He was again walking past just at the same time. And he came up to me and he recognized me and was like, "Oh, Michael, good to see you again." And I was in my head, I'm thinking, firstly, how the hell do you remember my name? We had one small interaction. And like, he's just like a genuinely lovely dude. And he absolutely loved it here. He was really passionate about it. And like he bought into the project. Like he wanted to make this like his own, like everyone, people talk about the tattoo being something where he was trying to save his job, but it wasn't, like, for those who might believe that, but for him, he's got one of every club, and he genuinely loved the club. He loves everyone involved in the club. Like I was told when he left, it was a really tearful day for him and for all the staff, and he made sure he spoke to every single person at the club, I believe, and he was just like a genuinely lovely guy, and always made time for everyone. And even on the sidelines, standing next to him, and you'd look over, because I used to sit sort of right next to the dugout, and I'd look over and you'd see him stand up and yell a small order. And in my head, I'm just thinking, then this guy's thinking about football. He would have thought about football in the same way in a Euros game or a World Cup game or a qualifier for Germany or Liverpool. And it just, every time I see him, I just think, man, like, this is insane that you're actually coaching in the A-League. Like, this is massive. But, back to your original question, I guess, genuinely, like, really lovely guy. And he was very vocal at the start. He was really, like, he
was more at the start,
Yeah, but I don't think he was as vocal as, say, Tony Popovich. Really good example. Tony's really
always
on his feet,
barking
always
orders,
at the edge of his dugout. Yeah, him and Fox are literally always just standing there, just yelling at everyone. Like, you do something good and he's screaming at you. But that's his mentality. Whereas the flip side, Babbel is a little bit less spoken. But I think that kind of speaks to his management. I don't want to, pile on the bloke, but he's not. I don't think he was that reactive during a game. He wasn't the best at reading a game or adapting to a changing game. So we kind of saw that, he'd sit there and it's like he did all his work before and now just let the game play out, and he wouldn't really need to say too much, I feel. But
I got that vibe as well. Yeah, like there's an extent you think he believed in all the preparation and all the pre-game and all the pre-match, and like, so he's just gone out. That was towards the end. I remember I really did notice that, where it was just like, it was, if plan A wasn't working, we just need to keep going, keep doing plan A.
That Perth game that Joe was at was like the quintessential one for me, because I remember sitting in the middle, and you'd hear Tony before you'd see him just screaming at someone, and Hayden Fox following up straight after with like the right hook of screaming. And then I looked to my left and you just see Babbel just sitting there, like, and to be fair, this was at the end, so it was kind of like the writing was on the wall, and that I think was his last game. But he just sort of sat there and he was just completely like, had no plan.
He was lifeless. Yeah.
And I think the cameras actually showed that contrast a few times in that specific game. But
especially
it's sad. Like, I feel for him.
Yeah, especially in like his first season, when like I think like at the derby at the SCG, when he like threw the jacket and all that, there was a massive like thing about that. But especially in like his like the second season, which like ultimately was his last, there was like you didn't see as much of that emotion.
Yeah, I think so. I think like he kind of did that jersey thing. Oh, not jersey thing, the jacket thing, to endear himself a little bit. I think, look, he was obviously caught in the emotion, but he obviously knows what the club was about, and he knew that, again, hard work and passion is what endears you to the West Sydney faithful, and it did. It was my cover photo for like a year, but like that's just, he was very devoted to the team, and he cared so much that, like, even those small details he actually tried to make work. And it's sad, but obviously it didn't work out, and he wasn't able to fix the problems that he was paid to do. So at the end of the day, as much as he's a nice guy, I'd love. In fact, I think he only left Sydney yesterday. Really? But he absolutely loved it here in Australia. So it's sad, but at the end of the day, it's a results business.
Yeah, no, for sure. Now, I'm renowned for when JP Dimarini came to the job, I just absolutely smashed him. Now that was mainly because my idea of the whole thing was assistant coach runs will run a lot of sessions. And I feel like he's as responsible as Babbel was. And like, he got a few questions thrown at him in a few press conferences where it was like a question of, I don't think JP undermined him, but like, I just feel like, because he's the caretaker for the remainder of the year, is that his title? Yeah. I just feel like they could have got someone, they should have got rid of both of them. I feel like keeping JP there is just a bit odd to me.
I feel like, and look, I was the same as you. I was very scathing of him and the decision, but I know that there was not many options after that. I think, I do know that they tried to find, or had talked about potential replacements, but there's just not that many people. And I know people talk about, I'll bring someone up from the NPL, et cetera, but like someone who coaches in the NPL 3 nights a week for 2 hours cannot.
It's not set up to do.
Yeah. He can't run the full
9 to 5
training
every
session,
day.
which is a 5-6 days. Exactly. Like it's a very different game, and you know, it's no discredit to some of the NPL managers. There are good ones, but I feel like they need to have a stepping stone before they go to the main job. Anyway, it's another point. But I largely would agree. Like, I feel like you got to clear out the whole administration. But I feel like part of the reason why he may have been kept on, and I'm still happy for him to prove me wrong on this. I'm still happy for him to have the job if he proves himself worthy, which at the moment he's done okay.
He actually has, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah,
and recently, yeah.
Definitely. And I feel like he has the gig because Halidi doesn't have his badges, which, you know, I think Halidi is like who they think, you know, he's passionate. He understands the club. He might be able to bring that back. This is speculation. This isn't anything official, by the way. But that's just my gut feel. But, you know, I was, again, the same thing, you know, an assistant manager, you know, each gaffer is different, but they've got quite a large say in the man management. Like, that's half the role. And, you know, if you couldn't get the team to do what you wanted them to do, then that's a problem with the assistant as well. But again, I think it came down to there weren't really many options. And if they didn't pull the trigger, I think the fans would have revolted, it felt like, at the end of you know, that run of games. So having said that, JP is a really lovely guy. He bought me a drink at Cold Chisel. So I can't say anything too bad about him. He's a lovely bloke. But yeah.
No, like,
That's great.
Back to Marcus Babbel, like the thing like everyone misses the most is like game day, his outfits were always on fleek, whether it be like Burberry or like Stone Island. Like, the man knows how to dress. Like, end of story. Like, I've never seen a manager look so well dressed week in, week out.
Yeah. I feel like I should have sold some of his outfits, like as like a designer collection type of thing. Like, I feel
100%.
like he was like a really, like, he's a good looking dude too. Like, he pulls it off. Like, the amount, like, and he dresses like, not like good in that you see a manager who looks good in a suit. Like, Kevin Muscat might look good in a suit, but like Marcus Babbel looked like he was about to hit the clubs after a game. Like, he was about to walk into Ivy and just party it down. Like, and he would have pulled it off. Like, you wouldn't have thought he would look out of place there.
Like, once I see like a manager wearing Stone Island, like, I'm buying into your philosophy, whatever it is.
That's right. Because you can probably throw hands. So if I don't follow the philosophy, you're going to smack me down.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Fair enough. All right.
Like, I remember
Joe,
we had that FFA Cup game against Western Sydney at Doreen Gardens, and like, we sat right behind Marcus Babbel. Were you at that game?
No, I didn't go to that game. Did you guys get a photo? Did you guys get a
Yeah,
Did you
well,
guys get on TV?
Yeah, well, on like Glory Media for like some like promo stuff.
I was working at the football centre, so blame Dean for that one, but it's all right.
But like that night, because like we were sitting like right behind Marcus Babbel, and like I wasn't even watching the game. I was just like looking at.
You're just checking him out
for the whole like 90 minutes, essentially. Yeah. Because like I remember he was like wearing this like massive coat as well that night. It was like Tony Popovich in like his like club tracksuit, which is like whatever.
Yeah.
But like Marcus Babbel's there wearing like Stone Island, and I'm just going like, I wonder where he bought that from. Like how many thousands it is.
Yes.
It was cold that night, I think. I remember. I'm ashamed. I'm actually annoyed I didn't get to go
like
there.
even in summer as well. Like he always had those like floral pattern like button-up shirts as well.
Floral shirts.
Chinos.
He wore shorts. Like there was a game against the Mariners at Spotless last year. He wore like short chinos and a floral shirt, and we all kind of looked like that season was over for us at that point. We all just looked at him and he's dialing it in. Like he like he's now just taking the piss.
Yeah.
And I think it was the first time he did it. Like I don't know if you remember this, but in the press conference they actually asked him, "Oh, why have you changed your outfit?" And he goes, "Well, I cannot change the team, so I thought I would change my shirt." Like I can't do anything, so I'm just going to dress differently. And then we won the game that he started dressing more flavoursome.
That's really funny.
I guess to say. And then it became a bit of a tradition. But that game against Perth where he lost, that one that Joe was at, he wore a full suit, and it was like, all right, this is sort of
something's
the end.
up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna change my background to. I found the image of him in the chino shorts, so it's gonna be my new background. All right. One thing I wanted to say was, I'll go on, Joe. Actually.
Yeah. Just before we forget, I would like to shout out to all 18 of our Patreons who are Andrea, Andy Tin, Ben Krizik, Ben Robson, Craig Richards, David Clark, Dennis Fernandez, Fraser Marnham, Glenn Oliviero, Harry Russell, Jacob Colangelo,
There we
John
go.
Morris, Jordan Smith, Jordan Waters, Luke Kelly, Natasha Williams, and Taylor Morris. Cheers, guys, for supporting the Patreon and giving back to the podcast. We appreciate it. Go on, Trent.
We do.
There's a guy in the
Now-
Patreon list. I'm not going to out who he is, but he's
Yeah.
an excellent bloke. He's a big follower of Ash. He's a big follower of any A-League show, I should say. And the reason I'm not going to out him is because he doesn't use his real name on his socials. But I'm very happy to see that he's support. Yeah, he's very happy. I'm very happy to see that he's supporting you guys. And one time he actually now has my phone number because I accidentally replied to an email that he sent to the ATB feedback line. I replied and he got my phone number and he started texting me. So he now gets exclusive access. So he's getting that for free. Like, I don't have to get him to sign up for a Patreon for that.
There was one time at the start where me and Joe were we didn't even know how the Patreon website worked, and we're reading out names, and then I read out someone's email address, and we're like, oh shit, I've just given it out.
It was like another time.
I think that
Trent.
we did.
It was like when
what did I do?
You said which club Diego Castro's son plays for.
So we had to cut that out.
Yeah.
Because that was exclusive information I had. I didn't think that was that bad, but we did cut it out. And then there was another time where we had to cut a serious bit of. I had some serious exclusive info that I probably would have been fired from my work that we had to cut out. So that's all right. We're all good.
I've done that before actually. I once leaked something just before we went out to because I'd been told it in confidence a few years ago, and it was literally the point where Nick, our producer and editor, and shout out to Nick who's probably listening. He was about to hit send. I texted him, mate, can you edit this out or something? This was about it was a different editor. It was Stephen at the time. And we had to cut it. We had to stop and cut that bit out because I went, oh shit, that can't go to air. That's, someone told me that privately. It's not been announced.
Yeah, we've gone through the same thing.
Yeah.
All right. So, Joe, how long have we gone for? I think we've gone
for over
a
an
while.
hour. Close enough.
Awesome. I think we're going to end on
bumper episode.
We're going to end on the big topic, which me and Joe were talking about before, which is... So whenever the A-League does restart, if they're thinking of August or whatever, do we make the move to shift the A-League into winter? Michael, I want to hear your thoughts on this.
My immediate answer is no. And the reason is a two-part answer. I think, and I think a lot of the calls as to the health of the A-League are a little bit, what's the word? I think they're a bit... overzealous in the assessment of the current position of the competition. I think people think that it's always on its death now, and look, it's not in the best state, I should say, but I don't think it's in it. I don't think it's in the position where it's about to fall over. So I don't think we necessarily need to do that. And I understand there are football reasons to move to winter. I just don't think that outweighs the commercial benefit of us playing in summer. I think the biggest problem with it is the fact that we'd be fighting for TV rights and ground sharing with the NRL and the AFL. And while the NRL we can probably make peace with, the AFL have in the past shown a tendency to absolutely hate the code, and they would actively schedule games to try and stuff us around. So you can imagine, I don't know if you guys are West Coast fans, but if West Coast was playing at the same time as Perth Glory, you guys might have an easier choice to make, but there are other people who will go, I'll go watch West Coast, or you just create, extra issues where just ground sharing for the sake of code wars just becomes a massive problem, especially because, for example, Etihad Stadium is owned by the AFL, and in Sydney, for example, Sydney FC would struggle with Kogarah, we would struggle with Western Sydney Stadium and Parramatta Eels and the Panthers and Bulldogs and whoever else is. Every other team's playing there at the moment, but it just becomes a logistical nightmare. And I think the battle is easier fought against the cricket in the summer, and it helps with us getting players from Europe. And I think while we can align with the Asian calendar, I think the European calendar makes a lot of sense, because at the end of the day, and this is a sad reality, if we sign a top Japanese star, people don't care about it as much as if we sign, say, a top championship star. Like Adam, unfortunately, and I say this because I personally don't agree, but Lafondra brings more eyeballs to the game than, say, Ryan Nagai, who signed for you guys. I think was it you guys? Right?
Yeah, he was, and he was insane as well.
Yeah, and people don't care about it as much because people have this Eurocentric view and this England-centric view of the game here, and I think it causes more problems than it is. And on the idea of the A-League's position, because I did touch on, I may as well close the point out, is that I think people have this idea that the A-League is on its death, and they use the attendances and numbers, and they use the TV viewership numbers as well.
Is there a certain South Melbourne Twitter account?
Joe, you've cut out.
We've lost you there, Joe.
I'm sorry.
Say it again, Joe.
Was that in reference to a certain South Melbourne Twitter account who's prevalent on soccer Twitter?
Yeah, it is. I'm sure he'll subtweet me a bit about this. Like, he actually subtweeted the heck out of me after we did a State of the Game show with the FFA a few years ago, and he like hated the fact we didn't bring up South Melbourne at all. It's the A-League show. Like, what do you want from us? Like, but it's like they talk about like TV figures, and like, you know, everyone streams, and the football community has a tendency to stream over watching conventional television. So like, do you guys use KO, I presume, over watching Foxtel?
Yeah, like it's like everybody knows like billions of people watch on KO, but like those numbers don't get reported.
Yeah, that's right. And like, people just hang their hat on the fact that, oh, look, there's 20,000 people watching on Foxtel. I said, well, no one watches Foxtel anymore. And the other one is, and this isn't to discredit any other clubs in the competition, but if both the Sydney teams and both the Melbourne teams do well, the A-League is a very different looking competition. Like, say if Wanderers sold out Bank West and got 25 to 30,000 every game, Sydney are doing well and getting 20,000. Melbourne Victory are getting 30,000 and doing well at the top of the league, and Melbourne City are doing well, their numbers won't be as high. The attendances are different, and people aren't talking about how the A-League is dying. They're talking about probably fan problems, but they're talking about, oh, look how good the RBB look, and look how good Melbourne Victories, North Terrace are. And those are the selling points that everyone always goes for. And then the league is a different looking place. And then that in turn influences other teams like Perth Glory, the Shed, step up a bit because the RBB is pulling out every single tifo, and Melbourne Victory fans are pulling out tifos galore, and then the Brisbane fans step up, and it's a flow-on effect. So I think all in all, I don't think we should, because we are in a position where we need to do something to align ourselves with the national football calendar. And I don't think it's worth the logistical problems it will cause, and it won't fix any other issues.
Joe, I'll go before you, because I know you have some interesting opinions, but I agree with a lot you said, Michael. Like, pretty much, I know Glory people or Perth people will find any excuse not to go to a Glory game. So like, if the Wildcats are on, no one's going to the Glory. If the Scorchers are on, no one's going to the Glory. If old mate's turning 65, no one's going to the Glory. And so like, if we are fighting for AFL, it's a battle that you don't want to face. And I agree, it's a logistical nightmare. Because we can barely, like, from a Perth standpoint, we can barely get people to come to the game in summer when nothing's on in terms of sport, nothing big on. So
and not to digress, and I know Joe's going to ask a different question.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you why you're wrong.
And the thing is, and like, this is something that irks me. This is something that irks me about what you guys have to do is, like, HBF Park's fees are really high. So like, what gets people to games and what tries to get people, what increases attendances is cheaper tickets. Like, as much as I'm sure Tony P and Tony Sage would want to do that, it's really hard for them to subsidize the pricing of the tickets for HBF because the rent's so high, and that stuffs you guys around. Because how good would it be, like, on a summer competition and they give out $10 tickets to all the juniors that play in the local area or whatever it might be, and then you'd fill the stadium, but you can't, because they can't really give the tickets away for that price, which is it's really shit, to be fair, because that, like, Perth is a community club, and it's a really good model for the A-League, and it should work. But I don't know if it's council owned or state government owned, but it kind of screws you guys over. I think that was because Tony Pinata was one to sort of came in and increased the prices. Well, it coincided, right? I think, and he obviously less people, more money to pay tickets. They're making somewhat more money, but I know the rent's always been stupidly high. But it'd be a great situation if tickets were $10 and every man and his dog could come. And the thing is, like, you get, if there's an extra 5,000 people that come, if you just get 10% who go, I want to come to another game, then that's 500 extra on your average attendance. And then over time, that just grows.
Yeah,
Joe, tell me why I'm wrong.
I know. I'll just add to your prior point, because, like, especially with, like, the Perth Stadium, like, especially clubs in, like, Sydney and Melbourne, they're in, like, a better position, because, like, say like Eddie had his book, there's always, like, Amy Park, or there's, like, another, like, rugby field somewhere they can play on, like, and there's, like, facilities for it. In Perth, it's, like, a totally different, because there's only, like, one rectangle stadium, and, like, of course, like, I think it's state government owned, so they can just charge whatever they want essentially, because, like, they know Glory's going to be there every single season, which is, like, unfortunately, like, like, ticket price, because, like, at the end of the day, it's always the consumer that gets, like, fucked by the ticket prices. But yeah, it's a hard thing, especially for fans. Like, going back to, like, winter and summer, like, I just want like a cold, rainy night at HBF Park. Just that. Just imagine the scenes. It's 6 degrees,
But
raining,
you
HBF
know what?
Park, FFA Cup or something on a Tuesday night. Slide tackles
I
going
wouldn't want
everywhere.
to. I
You
wouldn't want
just
to be
don't
there.
get that in summer. And that's why you're wrong.
You know what? Like the
Okay.
football purist in me, I'm very jaded, right? And I'm sure you'll appreciate this, Joe, because I know you're in taxation or accounting.
Yeah.
But I'm very jaded by the fact that I've been exposed to the commercial world. So I look at things too much. Like people call me a suit now, whatever. But like, I look too much at the numbers and everything like that, and I just think of the commercial realities. But football, the crux of football isn't the commercial reality. So like, you know, some people might go, well, that's unrealistic because it's, you know, la-di-da, it's never going to happen. But football exists in this world where it's built on dreams, and football for us isn't the commercial realities. And it's not, oh, how much is our club going to make this year? Or how much transfer fee are we going to spend? It's all about what football means to us and what going to the games brings out in us. And like, I sit there and, you know, I go to MPL games for that same reason. I love going to football on a cold night and eating a chavapi or a sausage roll or something and just feeling like the steam come off my breath and like watching the game and slightly hating the fact that you're there because you're 3-0 down against Sydney Olympic at Marconi. Or, like,
I'm just yearning for that.
But that's football, right? Like, and I'd love that to happen in the A-League, and like I fully support that that side of it, that part of the debate, which is, well, football sucks that we have to think about the money side of it.
Yeah. Like at the end of the day,
I think we always have to
it
think
is a
about the money
business.
side of it.
What you said. Trent, should we get to our
Now.
Q&A questions we've got for Turner?
Okay, and then we can end on some steak conversation, which won't last very long, but it'll be very interesting.
Oh yes, of course, steak. I'm excited.
I think we've got a question about steak we can get to. But our first question is from Lee Broxman Facts.
Excellent.
And he says, why is using the word aforementioned such a power move?
I use it all the time on ATB because it's such a good filler of space. I try not to say like I just did. I try not to say a lot because it's not good broadcasting, but I fill it with longer words. Like, as we said, as we mentioned, aforementioned, it just brings out time a little bit and gives me time to think about what I'm actually trying to say. So that is actually the legit reason why I say it a lot.
That's good. I think, Joe, we need to incorporate some long adjectives that will buy us some time. I agree.
Yeah, I feel like that will come with like more experience.
No.
Am I back?
Joe's dog is having a field day.
He's back.
I can hear you
We're
guys.
not
Can you hear
recording.
me?
Oh, no.
Are you recording still?
Yeah, we're recording.
Yeah. Are we recording? No, not on my screen. We're not recording.
It's recording
There
on
it
mine,
is.
it says.
Now we're recording.
I was going to stop my video because maybe that will be all right. But yeah, what was your point? Sorry.
I said that we need to. No, yeah, we need to use some longer words to buy some time and with more experience. That's good. But Joe, another Twitter question hit us.
Another Twitter question. This is a decent one from A. He says, "What semi-realistic marquee player would you welcome at the Wanderers?"
That's a good question. To be honest, if you asked me this a year ago, I would have said Diamante because I love him.
Oh,
I know you guys do as well. He's such a character on and off the field, and I think he's just fantastic. I'd love him. I'm not sure because, like, you talked about Marquez before with the Wanderers, and like, I'd love a Marquez who's a bit like a Ninkovic type player. I don't think we should be going for a flashy player. Like, I know it's easy for Wanderers fans to say, "I'll get someone to bring the people into the stadium," but like you get that kind of marquee, right? And they don't really do anything. Like Del Piero, amazing for PR and for the league, but he definitely didn't win him anything. And they finished 7th that season, and we won the league with Shinji Ono. And like, you know, I think it needs to be someone who brings a name because of what they do on the field. Who that kind of player is now, I'm not too sure. To be honest, it's been so long since I thought about football players and performances.
Yeah.
But it has to be someone who's not a flashy player, because it really, when you bring Wanderers back to what it believes, you need someone who's going to be hard worker. Like Simon Cox, for example, over Meyer. You know, Simon Cox works hard, scores goals. Meyer's a bigger name. it's sad. It wasn't entirely his fault, but he wasn't doing anything. So I'd rather have the small name than the big name.
Yeah, he's just quickly on Maya, like his resume leading into going to Wanderers was insane. I think he just wasn't fit.
His
He
nickname
just
was
wasn't fit.
football
And,
god.
and people underestimate. Yeah,
Yeah.
people underestimate like are you fit? Are you at your best? Because
Yeah.
if you're not, if a player's not at their best, like they're not even a player. They're not even what they were.
That's right. And like the thing is,
timing's important.
Maya worked so hard and tried so hard. Like he was really annoyed that he couldn't make it work. But he said his legs just were shot and he couldn't do it.
Yeah, which is fair enough.
And we've also got another question here from John, who asks, thoughts on MacArthur coming in next season and the impacts that would have on the Wanderers?
I'm not too fussed about MacArthur, in actual fact. I was criticised a lot on our show for saying that I didn't actually have a problem with MacArthur's inclusion. And I've got the added foresight in that I work in property in Sydney and in the property game, and MacArthur is a growth area. So there's a lot of new housing and new communities. And the idea, I guess, is to target people who are going to grow up in this community where their football team, the A-League team exists. And I think that strategy works as long as the team can sustain that. And I think Western United is the same, but again, they're two very different teams and backgrounds. So if the team can sustain a 20-year period of pretty limited activity on and off the field, I think that they will be a really good club in the long term of Australian football. But I don't think it eats too much into the Wanderers base. I think anyone who's going to defect is kidding themselves if they actually still call themselves a Wanderers fan. I don't think anyone who's able to jump, and I know it's rich coming from a Wanderers fan talking about turncoating, but same reason. If you were a Sydney fan, I put that in quotations, and you jumped over to the Wanderers, you weren't a real Sydney fan. You weren't a proper Sydney fan. So the people we're losing are the people who aren't coming when we're losing. Like, we get 9,000 when we're having a shit season. No one who is turning up to that game is turncoating or defecting. So the rusted on core people, they're the ones I care about more. They're the people who actually care about the club more so. They're not defecting, and that's fine. If people want to move across because they live closer and they attended 2 games a year, whatever, I can understand why you would do that. But I don't think it makes too much of a difference. I don't think it'll eat too much into our fan base. And I think, if anything, like when we came in, what we did with Sydney, I think it galvanizes the rusted on fans to sort of, another rival in town. We got to step up and actually show them why we're different. And it sort of creates the rivalry from the get-go.
Just quickly, we spent it was probably our second or third episode because we were previewing the A-League season. We spent about 20 minutes working out where MacArthur is in Australia.
I still don't have a clue.
Yeah.
So I'm not making any comment until I see a football team on the field.
Like, all I know about MacArthur is just like farms, bulls, and like...
Yeah, that was our 20-minute conversation.
You pretty much summed it up, right? If I drive in that region now, you drive down the Hume Highway on the left and right, you'll see a lot of farms and you'll see a lot of bulls, and you actually see their training ground being built, funnily enough. But
really?
Everything else, is just farming and bulls. That's the region, because it's not actually built yet. Like most of it, there's a small existing town being Campbelltown, but most of what their catchment area is like being built in the next 10 to 20 years, which is kind of the rationale. But like, having said that, you go look up MacArthur and you just see fields and go, what the hell?
So now, Trent, this is a conversation everybody was looking forward to. Let's talk about steak, meat, barbecues,
please.
Smoking things.
I'm a big meat fan.
For my birthday, I got a voucher to go to a barbecue school in Perth. Shout out Perth Barbecue School.
Nice.
I went with my brother. And so introduced me to everything. So we bought a kettle, pretty cheap.
Very good.
I think it was a Weber, I'm pretty sure. And so we got this. So my cousin owns a nice meat store in Perth, right? So we've got some good connections, some good meat. So we've got a massive tomahawk. It was 3 kilos. And it wasn't so we saw a tomahawk being made in the barbecue school, which was we got the different angles. So we got, his was really long and ours was quite fat with lots of bones. So we cooked it.
Sorry, what are you talking about, Trent?
A steak, tomahawk steak. Okay,
not the weapon. We weren't just
not the
cooking weapon.
And so probes were in. We cooked it for about 8. My brother did most of it, actually. About 8-9 hours. Came out lovely, and now we just want to cook more. It's an addiction. I'm sure you tell us that it's an addiction.
And like what you using a Weber is such a like Weber's like the ultimate starting like barbecue to use. Like everyone starts there, but like there's such a huge world when it comes to like you've probably done all your research and looked into it. Like people don't realize there's a massive world when it comes to the smoked meats like group. Like the groups like all like and like the techniques like cooking is like an art form. And like this is the first time I learned it was when I started like cooking. I think the first thing I did was it was a rack of lamb. I'd bought the first proper smoking I'd done, and I bought an offset smoker. And for a Weber is like a standard Weber, people would know what that is. An offset smoker is you got a fire pit to the left, usually on the left, then you've got the main cooking box on the right. It's like effectively two barrels, one big barrel, one small barrel. You load up and put all, and it feels like you're a real man, right? Because you're working the coals and you're just making sure the temperature's right. And you got your probe and you're like checking the numbers and you're looking at the meat, not really sure what you're looking at to begin with, and closing it. But it comes down, all that comes down to temperatures and like how you season it, how you marinate it, and the type of meat, and like
are you cooking?
How hot. Exactly. And like the good thing, like you mentioned that, like you have a mate an uncle that runs that meat shop. Yeah. Getting good meat is like the biggest part of it.
I think they're called butchers, by the way, Michael.
Butcher. I was a culprit of that as well. So.
Well, the thing is, the good one I go to here in Sydney, it's like a massive one, and a lot of the restaurants go there. It's like, but it's called like Australian Meat Emporium. So I just forget it's actually just the butcher, but I just go, I'm going to the meat emporium. People go, what the hell?
That sounds so good as well.
It sounds so wanky, but like it's really cool. And you can buy like huge cuts of meat and all that, but like the cut of meat makes the biggest difference. And like it's such a, when you first, like you've done it, I'm sure, like when you first slice into that piece of meat and you see the smoke ring and you see it perfect, exactly how you're expecting it.
Like what else do you want? What else do you want?
You stand there and you're like, I'm a man. I've done I've done exactly what I was put on this earth to do.
No, it is. It's like, it's a whole, like, there's so many TV shows that you could binge watch, like of Americans just cooking barbecue. It's like, what? Like,
it's such a thing.
It's a whole nother world.
And the thing is, like, briskets are the big thing of the smoky, like Texas, smoked meats world. But like a brisket is like the worst cut of a cow, really. Like it's kind of like the off cut that, what are we going to do? Let's just smoke it for 12 hours and see what happens. But I've done a brisket a couple of times. It's so tricky because like that's a long time investment. Like you're cooking a brisket for like 12 to 14 hours, depending on the cut and the smoker you've got. So it's like a proper event. Like you got to like, you can't just like do it on the side. Like you got to like commit like a week into it.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Because I could just like look like looking on your recent Instagrams now, Michael. Like it's slowly turning into like JFC's Instagram with all the twerks. Like yours is just like slowly becoming like more
pictures of meat.
Steaks. Oh, that's good. That's good. We do want to speak to JFC one day.
Look, he'd be an excellent chat. I'm sure he's got this. I've spoken to him before. He's a lovely bloke. But he'd have a still like. You might have to like get your lawyers to look over the video before you put it out, just in case.
Oh shit!
Because famously he has his podcast with Vince Regari.
Yes. I don't know if this is a story. Oh, Vince won't care. I asked Vince once at a game. I said, "How did this all happen? Like, do you know him? Like, how did this all?" And he goes, "No, I was just selected." And I was like, well, he just started, talking about this podcast and tagging in this Bernie Avini thing. He's like, yep. Like, that's even funnier that like you guys don't know each other.
Oh shit.
Like it has to be caught on camera when like those two meet each other.
Oh, that would be amazing. I don't know if they'd be allowed to.
They might not be, to be honest.
Yeah. Someone at the FFA is going, don't let them meet.
Oh, anyway, shit. And Michael, I think that's a good note to end on. What about you guys?
Yeah, I think we've definitely that time flew by. That was great.
We've talked about a lot of things.
Now 90 minutes nearly, so just like a game of football, coincidentally.
How much added on time, or is this one of those mercy ones where they just put 1 minute up and blow the whistle straight away?
Just one. Yeah, we want to get out of here.
Yeah.
I'm starving now. Like all this talk about meat and everything.
Oh god. Yeah, thanks for coming on, Michael. That's
awesome, all right.
Chat.
Thanks for having me on. Joining the you guys who are, I think, what did Jace call you guys, Joe? He said you guys are the fastest growing podcast.
Yeah, due to our aggressive following everyone.
It's a great marketing strategy.
Yeah.
I've done one
Making
unit in
wonders.
marketing. Joe may have done another unit. We've put it together and decided that's the best way forward.
And hey, it works. So.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
It's proven. Anyway, that has been episode, I don't know what number now, but that's another one.
30.
Like, comment, subscribe. If you like Michael, like the video, check out his 2 podcasts, ATB and his new one, which is called
The JD and Turner Show.
Yeah, and look out for the JFC and Vince Brigari podcast coming soon. Cheers, guys.
I like that, Joe. All right, ciao.
Thanks, guys.